All right. 9,300-year low in sun activity. Collapse. Economic confidence models are cited in the paperwork for proving this. Economics is a human-created thing. Anthropomorphically generate. Human excitability study. Again, the human can. Some people really like it. Like, well, what does it mean for me? I don't care if it has to do with dinosaurs. Global warming denialism propaganda. Again. Now, again, it's really not complicated. If you want to disprove something that's been shown to be very, very likely from a scientific standpoint, citing studies would be great if you'd name them, and if you didn't always get them from investment and economics websites. Economics reacts to global climate change. It's not really good at analyzing it, but it is good at covering their butts when oil companies they invest in are involved. So let's get on with it. So anyway, Lee Whalebarger said today that in 2017, Martin Armstrong said, he sent me a link to this, that Al Tchaikovsky human excitability study said war is correlated to sunspot activity. And the drop in activity is at its steepest, in 9,300 years. This number kept coming up. You didn't think I was just going to stop with this, did you? You knew I was going to look up where this bullshit came from, right? Like the economic confidence model, it's all totally rational to use that. People who bet the stock market and don't admit they fail at it, but sell you that system on the infomercial, this is what you're getting your data from. Literal hucksters. Okay, here we go. The sun is headed for a very rare supercooling period. Been over almost 24 of them. That threatens to topple the civilization itself as it has throughout history, roughly following a 300-year cycle. But it's being ignored by global warming propaganda people. Why would anybody ignore a 300-year cycle that shows up? Because it didn't? Why are you ignoring the 11-year cycle that doesn't cause the behavior you're seeing? Wouldn't an 11-year period of time be enough for us to see a steady dip and then a jump and a dip and a jump in global temperature scales? You're talking about changes over an 11-year period of time that amount to, and yeah, this is the amount of energy output. Again, you keep ignoring this. The sun doesn't necessarily produce all the cosmic rays hitting the atmosphere. Let's get to that one. A change in a couple of watts out of 1,300 watts in an area, a less than 0.1% change. Okay, fine. Let's ignore that 11-year cycle that isn't doing what you think it's going to do, because the sunspot activities equal heat when they don't. Okay, let's go. Principia Scientific International reposted the Armstrong economics thing. Neither of these are unbiased data sources that care more about scientific fact and reasoning than making sure they protect their investments and sell you that system. Just freaking deal with it, okay? Let's look at their sources, right? No, it's a hard fringe view website, and Armstrong Economics is. I wouldn't trust them to tell me what to invest in, because they're denialists about anything. If you're a denialist in any way, I don't trust you, because I don't think you have your head screwed on straight. It's that straightforward. But anyway, let's go on. Assertion: the sun has steadily quieted down since 1958. Okay, show some statistics on that. That's great. But we're on an 11-year cycle, so how is this steady? It went back up and down, right? Oh no. The Earth has also been warming at an accelerated rate since about then. So you're admitting global warming's happening. Okay? But this is why the global warming propaganda ignores the approaching minimum. You're predicting a minimum when there's an upward trend, and your assertion for this is based on something you guys bandy about, including the actual source that Lee Wheelbarger pointed me to, doesn't actually talk about what the data source was from 2012, not 2018, not the human excitability study. You're not pointing me to that. The maximum sunspot numbers recorded for the solar cycles 18, 19, 21, 22, and 23 are the 5 highest sunspot counts ever reliably recorded. Yes. That doesn't indicate a reduction in sunspot activity. So basically, if the sunspot level is high, that means a global cooling. And if it's low, it means global cooling, because we'll just throw our results around. But anyway, but it's got a major downward trend on that year, 2012. What was it doing during then? Okay. Tree rings tell us that the grand solar minimum is one of 24 in the last 9,300 years. Again, that number, why? In 2013, a publication in Space Science Reviews. This is off a conservative website that you're not going to argue with, because this is their assertion. Ken McCracken, Jürgen Beer, Friedlin Steinbler, and Jose Abreu paleocosmic ray records. Were they measuring temperature or cosmic rays? They were measuring cosmic rays. Were they measuring proxy data to tell them the actual temperatures? Yes or no? Okay, let's continue. Studying the properties of the heliosphere solar process over the past 9,300 years. Okay. Studied the solar minimums only over the last 9,300 years. How long have human beings been recording records in history? Measurements of beryllium and carbon isotopes as a proxy for the intensity of cosmic rays. Where were they collected? Are cosmic rays primarily absorbed in the atmosphere? Or in the... Where do cosmic rays primarily come from? The cosmos or the sun? Next, measurements of beryllium and carbon isotopes were used as a proxy to determine the intensity of cosmic rays, which are modulated by solar activity. Okay. So that is a proxy of a proxy, correct? Okay. Do you understand why this is somehow very important? Because of the idea, the theory, the absolute assertion that cosmic rays are the only things that can cause nucleation in clouds to cause global warming and cooling. It's not that the presumption is humans can't cause global warming. Again, this is the reason we're looking for proxy data for this information. And you say cosmic rays, it triggers people. It'll be in the title of the video. The scientists had arrived at the presumption that the minimum, solar minimum, 2007-2009, had similar characteristics for minimums occurring during this time of the Dalton minimums from 1780 to 1820. They discovered what they say is a 208-year periodical variation of grand solar minimums in the past. I actually covered this before. It's not actually 208, nor is it 300. It's not. You'd have to show that there was actual changes. And I'm not talking grand solar minimum sunspots. We're talking, what did it do to the atmosphere? And what happened to the environment? Again, well, we'll look at proxy data for cosmic rays to figure out what the sun was doing instead of the actual counts. Okay. But do they correlate with the actual counts? Because people have been counting sunspot activity for a while. Is it ever wrong? Did you use the same beryllium and carbon isotope tests recently? Why does carbon-14 data get less accurate over time? Because their half-lives? What's the half-life limitation on doing the study? What's the giant freaking flashing 4-digit number in the video title? Any anticipated in the near future, they anticipated in the near future the events of a Dalton minimum, not a Maunder minimum. Said so-called renowned solar scientist you've never heard of. Okay. Just give me a minute. Let's start with the presumption that our economic rule of this planet as being the gigantic cabal of banksters is being threatened by global warming fact and truth. So let's get a cabal together of experts and cherry-pick studies that tell us something with trigger words like cosmic rays, grand solar minimum, any excuse we can find. Smoke screens and shit everywhere. This was done by a graduate student. The next grand minimum to examine the social and economic impacts website. National Astronomy Meeting in Manchester. Solar climate change paper by a University of Reading graduate student, Luke Bernard. That's your source. It's a graduate student who did this paper. This was 8 layers deep. Someone didn't cite the original paper. Their bias is they don't want you boycotting oil companies because they don't care about how many animals die on your local coastline from a leak. They don't give a damn whether you and I live or die. They just want to have fun while they're alive. They don't care. They don't look towards the future. These are the kind of people who keep predicting the economic crisis every damn day, because that way they can get you to buy more of their DVDs and go to their symposiums and shit. Yeah, really clear bias here, versus a bunch of climate scientists who are just trying to get college degrees like this guy. The study data, the correlation causation data, only goes back 9,300 years. So, and it gets less and less accurate as far as being able to count how many sunspots there were. So of course it was low. It's a data limit at 9,300 years. That's why. So let's ignore actual sunspot counts instead of estimating them. Let's estimate them back really, really far to the bare limit for what we could do using proxy data. You guys complain about proxy cores that are actual bubbles of air trapped in ice in Antarctica, but you don't bitch about some guy inferring data 3 layers of distinction away instead of actual sunspot counts that don't correlate with your assumptions. You look for proxy data that does. Okay, well, it doesn't correlate because you're saying this is the lowest it's been in 9,300 years. Your scale only goes back 9,300 years. It's a graduate student somewhere in Manchester or something. That's what it was. This gets trotted out every year since 2012, and other studies use it as a citation, so they cite that study. And then the peer review says the same thing. It's a graduate student, and would you like to check for follow-up? Was he peer reviewed? What? Thanks for watching. Have a good day. Good luck with that.